Welcome in Monday edition. Hail to the podcast.
It's Tuesday, my friend.
Is it Tuesday?
It's Tuesday.
I was saying Monday. I'm like, that doesn't feel right.
Yep, it's definitely. It's okay. In your defense, I thought all day was Wednesday today, but it's not Wednesday.
I don't. It's been the last. Normally, I can blame holidays and stuff, but the last week, I've been a mess. Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome. No, I'm just kidding. All right, Tuesday edition. Hail to the podcast. Brought to you by Maize and Blue Review. I'm spinning a little bit because we're coming out of barbecue at the Big House weekend. What? 6 players, mostly 2026, did see a commit in the 2026 class. Some 2025 stuff we can talk about a little bit, but honestly, I don't think much has changed before and after, but we can get into that a little bit. But it's Christmas Eve, folks, tomorrow, or for those of you listening the following day, July 31st, Michigan football fall camp. How in the world are we here already? Absolutely crazy. So we're going to get into it. Josh was at Michigan today. Got to listen to Kurt Campbell, Wink Martindale, Sharon Moore, Big Ten Media Days. We've gotten a lot of comments, a lot of information. We're going to get into it. We'll talk depth chart. We'll talk expectations. We'll talk things good that need to happen, things that worry us, whatever. And obviously, if you're joining us live, please be in the comment section with questions. And we want this to be fully conversational, going back and forth. And if you're listening back and you're not watching live, please get on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell, so you know when we go live. All right. So I'm Trevor McCue, senior editor of Maize and Blue Review. Joined as always, Josh Henschke, publisher, insider, intel master. Damn good beard. Keep it going. I'm so happy you haven't gotten rid of that yet.
I know.
Josh Henschke.
Coming in nice.
Looks real good.
Yeah.
You got to be careful. You could get into Santa territory the way yours is growing, but I think you're good right now.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to avoid that. I'm actually thinking about going for a haircut tomorrow, so I might do a little trimmage going on.
I appreciate this. Someone telling me I lost a little weight. Our good friend Derek told me I looked fat on the last podcast. So
that's right.
That's right. I probably look better. I'm wearing my glasses. My hair is not a complete mess today. Got a button up. I'm not as scrubby as normal, but thank you. Appreciate it. And then Mr. Darbo. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Darbo.
When are you getting out of Iowa, brother? Good God. He lives in Des Moines, but I think he said he's moving to Texas. I don't know. We'll see what he says. Anyway, Josh, tell us about our good friend Wes, and then let's get into this.
Yep, as always, I just want to shout out our friends. My friend Wes at My Perfect Franchise. He's been our day one supporter.
Did he clone himself?
Yeah, it's he could. He's one of wears many hats. So
he probably would, yeah.
Yeah. And again, his services are 100% free, guys. So this is absolutely, if you're looking for a change of pace, you're looking for something new, this is absolutely the avenue that you should explore. And Wes is just a good dude, so even better. Would you like to escape corporate America for good? Maybe you'd like to start a business on the side and keep your corporate gig? Wes can help. Wes is a franchise consultant as well as a business owner and can help you find a franchise that fits your skill set, financial requirements, how much time you have to commit, and more. A franchise is a business startup and operations kit, perfect for those with general business skills, but who may not have specific knowledge on starting and running a small business. His services are 100% free, and he's here to help if you have any questions about business ownership. You can reach him by phone at 512-970-7478 or see him on the web at myperfectfranchise.net/aboutwest. Again, that's 512-970-7478. That's myperfectfranchise.net/aboutwest. So again, thank you, West, for being a day one supporter and making this thing tick. We appreciate you.
Our day one, who we talked about on the last show. Josh took over this site and launched Maize and Blue Review the Monday after the loss to Michigan State. So since then, no regular season losses, 3 Big Ten championships, national championship. You can credit Josh and West for that.
And I want to take a quick moment here. And I want to shout out Alex here.
I wanted to make sure we weren't being trolled first.
No, yeah, I wanted to as well. But the thing is, I don't care who you root for. If you come at me with respect, you're gonna get respect right back. It's that easy. If you're a dumbass troll in the comments, you're gonna get a smart ass response, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on here. So Alex, thank you. You know, you're always welcome to watch, and you know, hopefully we can be friends. Well, but you know, again, respect. I appreciate these kind of comments. Like
I do too, but it's okay to talk some smack too. Rivalries are supposed to be fun,
right?
We've just gone to a weird territory in the last year.
There's ways to navigate stuff like this, so it's, you know, it's refreshing to see that, Alex. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, and again, like, one bad egg doesn't ruin an entire fan base. And I know it's kind of sacrilege to talk about Ohio State fans and all that kind of stuff. And Michigan State, the same thing. But
hold on. What?
Whoa.
Hold on.
Right. Idiot. Now he's really thinking we're thinking he's a total troll in the opposite direction. He's a Michigan fan now.
We'll move on to some Michigan stuff, but Alex, let me know in the comments, where are you on the Ryan Day hot seat going into this year? Is there a line he has to cross for you? Is it natty or bust? Blah, blah, blah. Right. But yeah. Welcome. Okay.
Yeah. Everyone is welcome. That's the good thing.
Like I said, guys, those of you watching live, if you got questions, throw them in there. I'll try to fit it in as we go along, any questions you have. But let's start with the offense. Kirk Campbell and Wink, like I said, met with the media today. Kirk, I thought, shared some things. And then also, I mean, these guys are from the Harbaugh tree, man. Like, they are well trained with some of their answers and stuff. Look, when it comes to the quarterback competition, we are today where we said we would be back in February, right? I mean, we're going into fall camp. There's an open competition. It still feels like they want Alex Orji to take this job because he's the guy with the highest ceiling.
Yeah.
It feels like there's risk there potentially when it comes to his accuracy and potentially turning over the ball, which both Moore and Campbell have said is a priority. You can't go over there turning the ball over. We want a playmaker, but right, we're not going to make that trade-off. Jack Tuttle, Davis Warren are kind of there as potential options, right? I think Tuttle's seen as a safe option. He's a future coach. Campbell today called him. It's like having another coach around. Before he was approved for a 7th year, we thought he was going to be a GA coach this year, right? That's his future. Now here he is of the Michigan battle. But anyway,
the funny thing, just real quick, Kirk Campbell mentioned that he was a quarterback under Brett Hundley in college. I'm like, are you kidding me? He was behind Brett Hundley, JJ, and Michael Penix, 3 quarterbacks that ended up in the NFL. But I feel like Huntley was like a 10-year.
Huntley, wow.
A 10-year NFL vet. He's been in college that long.
I want one thing.
My mind when
that is Tyler Huntley.
Tyler Huntley. Thank you, Steve.
I do want to say one thing, and I'm not trying to bash Tuttle or anything. This narrative about, well, guys, he was stuck behind Michael Penix and JJ, like he hasn't had a chance. He lost the job in 2022 to Connor Bazelak.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't win that job. So, like, he's a 7th-year quarterback. Like, I know I don't really care about what he did at Indiana because he's going to be on a much better team at Michigan, right? Like, that's part of it. But I think right now, tell me how you feel, Josh, but for me, this is a massive unknown, right? With Cade and JJ, we had seen Cade play. We felt like we knew what his floor and ceiling was. JJ obviously was the top recruit. We saw the monster throw against Western. Like, we had an idea of what the two guys brought to the table. Spate or Corn, similar situation. I think right now people aren't necessarily motivated one way or the other if they like Orji, if they like Tuttle, whatever, by what they think that player does well. It's by a fear of what they think they don't do well, because we don't know.
Yeah.
We really don't know what these guys are going to look like as a full-time starter.
Yeah, that's true. And I see, looking in the comments here, and I agree with almost all of the comments here, but when it comes to, Orji scares me when he does this or if he does that, we haven't really seen him do anything other than run. We saw him do a little bit in the spring game, but what can you really take away from a spring game? We've seen so many people, have these really impressive spring game performances and you never hear from him again the rest of the year. So, and you're 100% right. I totally agree. We don't really know what Michigan has at quarterback. I mean, yeah, you have a guy in Tuttle that's experienced, but you're talking about a guy that 7 years in has struggled to cut into a depth chart. What more could you possibly get from Tuttle other than the safe pick? I mean, it's the safe choice. But if you're Michigan, are you okay with safe, or would you rather have a guy with a higher ceiling that you may be susceptible to more turnovers? However, you're available to have more explosive plays at the hands of Orji because he can use his legs. And Tuttle is mobile to a degree, but
he's also been hurt when he's run the ball too.
Yeah, he's hurt. So, he's coming off elbow surgery. It's tough for me to kind of I'm not team one guy or the other. I'm more team who can run the offense. And I think right now, Alex Orji has that type of ability to, if you were to ring a towel, ring a sponge, right? You'll be able to wring out more with Alex Orji than you would with Tuttle. However, is that can they tap into that? That's the thing. Like there's so many wrinkles to this thing. And really it's,
and you got Texas week too, so you don't got time to figure it out either.
Right. Exactly right. And, Orji's got the walk. He's got the talk.
Yeah.
Can he back it up on the field?
He's got the riz.
Yeah. He's got the riz.
It's an it factor, man.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know how to explain it, but he's got it.
He's got it when it comes to everything else but on the field, but that's because we haven't seen him play.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I mean, if you want to have a quarterback that's similar to JJ in terms of being able to improvise, I think Orji's your best bet. Right now, I don't know if Orji is capable of making the same type of smart plays while being, improvisational and at the same time. I don't know if that mental capacity is there. And I'm not calling him like an idiot or anything. I'm just saying just because JJ's seen the field so much.
The game slows down. You learn things from you need reps.
Right. And running is not going to give you the reps that you need. I mean, obviously you need passes and it's tough. It's tough to call. I mean, obviously because, fall camp hasn't started. They're not going to be in pads for like a week and a half. So it's tough. I mean, I just feel like what your average fan is here. It's basically they're begging Alex Orji to take the job.
How many times have we talked about this?
Right. We've said this multiple times.
The usage of him in the graphics, the fact that he sat with JJ, Donovan, Blake during the ring ceremony,
right.
He's the one with Loveland and Will when they go to the events. The way the coaches talk about him, it's not that they're anointing him. He needs to win the job, but it's clear they want him to.
Right. And I agree with Mark here too. I mean, you don't need Alex Orji to throw 4,000 passing yards. I mean, they're just not going to do that anyway because it's Michigan. I mean, you can say, they can say that they're going to, kind of revolutionize the offense a little bit, get more passing plays going and put guys in position to succeed. But when you've got a head coach with, his tagline is smash, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I mean, that's what got them to a national championship and got them into this position. It's just, I just think what it comes down to is a guy that is capable of avoiding the mistakes of turning the ball over. If you go with a guy like Orji, are you okay with an extra 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 turnovers? I don't know. It's such an unknown because we haven't really seen anyone do it.
I'm sorry. What's your shirt?
It's a bear.
What's his hat say?
It says "Call my lawyer."
What?
I don't know. I like the shirt. I just bought the shirt.
Yeah, it's a great shirt.
Call my lawyer if you got a problem with it.
That's great. You made a lot of points there that I think Kurt Campbell kind of touched on today.
Yeah.
So one of them, I'm going to try and keep all of these in my mind because I want to touch on a few of these, but one of them that he's kind of echoed before and kind of mentioned again today, there isn't a Michigan offense that they're looking for a quarterback to run, right? There's a bucket of things that Michigan will always do. Scheme-wise, the way they operate, whatever, there's a bucket. But there's also an entire segment, the identity of this team, that's going to be malleable depending on who the quarterback is.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that because I don't know if that's always been the case. I know we complained about this all the time with Don Brown and trying to fit people into holes as opposed to adapting the defense, right? The defense we saw, McDonald and Minter, here's my strengths. We're taking advantage of that, right? And if it's Orji, if it's Tuttle, the offense will look different. They're not going to ask Orji to do certain things they don't think he's good at, and Tuttle vice versa, right?
Exactly right.
I think it's a great thing. I think it's awesome that he said that, and it's a great mindset to have, right? But that kind of bled into another thing that he talked about. You and I have talked about the number 30 when it comes to Michigan games for a long time. You score 30 points and you hold the team you're up against under 30, you win. If you look at Michigan's games, it's unbelievable. I think Michigan State, they gave up more than 30 and lost. TCU, they gave up more than 30 and lost. They have not won a single game with giving up more than 30. They lost those two. There's a couple games they didn't score 30 and still won, but largely almost every game Michigan has won in this 3-year stretch. They scored more than 30 and they've held the opponent under 30. That's their mark. And somebody asked Kirk today about what confidence do you have that you're going to score 30 points a game again? And he shouted out everyone but the quarterback. And I think that's something fair to talk about. As much attention is on the quarterback, they like these receivers. He specifically said Tyler Morris is the guy he thinks needs to step up.
Yeah.
A lot of people are excited about Samaj Morgan, but in his mind, Tyler Morris is that dude. We'll get to some of these other guys in a second. But the reason I think he called out Tyler Morris is because last year they were already talking about Tyler Morris being the Ronnie Bell replacement, right? The go-to safety net for the quarterback. How many times did we say Ronnie Bell find a gap in the defense for J.J. McCarthy in 2022, right? The go-to guy. We've talked about a little bit how the rise of Roman Wilson on the outside in that Z role kind of blocked Morris and opened the door for Samaj. Nobody blocking Morris this year. And then obviously Morgan there as well. What do you think about the receivers? And we can get into some of the depth that's developing as well, the transfers, whatever. But Kirk Campbell is very confident. They've been talking about being explosive. He thinks Tyler Morris can be that dude.
Yeah, I think he can too. I mean, we saw what he's capable of, against Alabama. That's not some flash in the pan event. That's what Tyler Morris was in high school before his ACL injury. Track star, speed.
Yep.
This is what he's capable of. I think they need to establish a downfield threat. Not that they necessarily use the downfield pass play that much. I mean, they're more, I know Michigan's bread and butter last year, 2 years ago, was kind of more of the short to intermediate stuff and let the guys kind of navigate their way through open space. And I think Tyler Morris can handle that. Absolutely.
Say speed and space. Say it.
I mean, yeah, there's speed and space. Tyler Morris is capable of it. Samaj is capable of it.
Donovan.
Even Colston Loveland's capable of it. I mean, he's just really good at finding open spaces.
Let your players make plays, man.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Kirk Campbell said today. They just want to let their playmakers make plays. Whether that's Donovan Edwards too, which I feel like this is just personal opinion, not anything based on anything that we've heard, but I feel like he's going to be more involved in the pass game too. And I think he should by necessity, because I think he's that good of a player. And, that calls into question whether he can be that 30 carry type of guy if they need it. Obviously Kalel Mullings is there too. It can take up a lot of that carry, but he haven't gotten that much of a workload yet. Kalel, he's has a little bit, but he's another guy that, you can kind of call him a de facto starter, but doesn't have a whole lot of experience. So,
he's just looked good every time he runs the ball.
Yeah, exactly. So
the dude gets 5 yards a carry every time he touches the ball. Right?
Yeah,
he's got that Haskins vibe, man.
Yeah, and I don't want to break down an offense to have like it to be as simple as it is, but really what it comes down to is the ability to get open and catch passes. Don't drop passes. And those two things, if you can do that, you're going to have success more often than not. So, yeah, you'd like to see more explosives in the passing game, but if Michigan can get away with a similar product in the passing game that they had last year, this year, they'll be just fine. So I just, I'm not as down on the wide receivers as some people might be. CJ Charleston's another guy that
I'm excited about CJ.
They really like.
Yes.
So we'll kind of let this, let us see it, let it play out. Kendrick Bell has been mentioned a few times too. I don't know how much, playing time he's going to get, but he made some plays in the spring game. Obviously, Fred Moore, another one of those guys that found open field and made plays. So that's really Michigan's bread and butter. So
he didn't enroll early last year, so that kind of put him behind when it came to the other two. So I thought something interesting too, though. Campbell said when he was giving props to Morris and Samaj and said, those are starters. Those are our starters. He specifically said like 11 personnel. Those are the two guys on the field. We've given so much attention this year to what you would consider an X receiver, right? You're the number one big outside target. And Fred Moore has kind of been penciled into that X role, if you will. And what Campbell said to me today is no.
Yeah.
Right. Wide receiver 1 and 2 are Morris and Morgan. We'll see how it shakes out at the end of the year, but those are your top two receivers. You brought up Colston Loveland already. To me, I wrote an article a few months ago about why I think Loveland is already wide receiver 1 and already the number one outside guy. I don't think people realize 20% of his reps last year were on the outside, most in college football, and they didn't even take full advantage of him.
Mm-hmm.
What I heard today is Kurt Campbell say today, without saying it, is Colston Loveland is the X wide receiver 1 big body target this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And, Marlon Klein obviously is a guy they really, really like too. They think he's one of the more athletic players they have on the team.
Called out him and Bredesen today, all three of those.
Yeah. Bredesen he's made it known to the coaches that he wants to get more involved in the passing game too. So that's another guy. Deacon Tonielli has gotten some run with his name being dropped as a guy that's coming up.
Oh yeah.
Zach Marshall's another one. They have depth. I think obviously the three premier guys, because you can also consider Bredesen a fullback, tight end hybrid.
I always put him in as fullback in his own little role, but yeah, he's technically a tight end, right? So
yeah. So I think if Marlon Klein makes the step forward that a lot of people expect him to make this year, not only does that take a lot of pressure off Colston Loveland, but it also takes pressure off the receivers as well, because you've got another receiver threat. So there's options, there's puzzle pieces that are kind of strewn out on the table right now, and just kind of all scattered off, and they're trying to build the border. They're starting border out. Border in. They're building the border, and that'll be the first couple of weeks in fall camp, and then all of a sudden you'll start to see, as the season goes on, a more complete puzzle being made, and until the final pieces can kind of go in. So I'm not concerned. I'm really not concerned. Not after they added not that they added someone like a CJ Charleston. I would like to see a Morion Walker do something this year. I don't know. I can give you a number or expectation or whatever, but
we've been aching for that role since Andrell Anthony going into his sophomore year.
Yep.
In 22. And then it was going to be Clemens, right? We thought Darius Clemens was going to be the guy. We just, that tall guy that can go down the field and get it.
Yeah.
Maybe it can be him, maybe not, but It would be nice to see it happen.
Yeah. No, it would be nice to have him, but that's the way the portal goes. But it's Michigan. Yeah, or Clemens, or even Angelo Anthony at this point. It's kind of this offense would look a lot different if those two.
He was doing so good before he got hurt, but yeah. Anyway.
Yep. But I mean, Michigan has the ability to complicate defenses. They've got playmakers. It's just A, finding someone who can get them the ball, and B, putting them in position to be successful. Or you can either flip flop those ones. Have A, B, put them in a position to successful. B, someone get them the ball. But man,
you can see the potential.
Yeah, you absolutely could see absolutely see the potential. So I don't know what the growth period looks like. I mean, because as you mentioned, you've got Texas week 2, so they don't really have much room for error if you're trying.
There's no preseason this year,
right? Exactly. It's tough. But these guys need to get older quick. So these guys need to grow quick, and we've seen it happen before with other Michigan teams in the past with questions. But I mean, obviously, it starts and stops with the quarterback. I mean, this team will go as far as the quarterback will take them, and if I had to guess today who the starting quarterback would be, I'm still sticking with Alex Orji. I'm not married to that idea because obviously that will get figured out in camp. I think if you want to play it totally safe, milquetoast type of pick, it's Jack Tuttle. I mean, he's not going to make mistakes, but he's also not going to take risks.
Well,
and we've seen that happen before with a guy like Cade McNamara too, which Michigan has beaten Ohio State with Cade, won a Big Ten with Cade, been to the playoff with Cade, but did not win a game. So there's so many unknowns right now that obviously we cannot answer the day before fall camp starts.
With the wide receivers, I think it's going to be Orji too. And part of it, I mean, we talked about the ceiling, whatever. Part of it is, I think this personnel, Morgan and Morris, guys that, whether it's crossing routes, doing mesh routes, Donovan Edwards out of the backfield, which I hope they throw to him deep more. I've been saying that literally since he was a freshman. The guy is an amazing threat when he goes deep. But these are all guys that CJ Charleston, part of the reason I really like his addition too, if you go back and look at what he did at Youngstown, it's a lot of tight slants, crossing routes, screens, stuff in the backfield, those easy throws for Orji to stay on schedule, get them warmed up, get some yards, let your playmakers make plays. And then having somebody like a Colston Loveland as a tight end, you always hear the tight end talked about as like a safety net, not a bad safety net to have if you're, a first-time starter tasked with replacing JJ. And then the other piece of it for me too is the running backs. We talked about Donovan. We've talked about Mullings a little bit. Somebody had asked, let me try and bridge 2 topics here about if we heard any freshmen get shouted out. Shannon Goodwin and Imarian Stewart, part of the wide receivers, were called out as well as being good, but we don't really know what their playing time early is going to look like. Running backs though.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little about Donovan and Kalel and maybe what that RB1, RB1B dynamic might look like. We could talk about that some more. Ben Hall is one of those guys who got a lot of spring love. You brought that up too. Guy looks great in the spring. It maybe hasn't translated. He got hurt last year, had turf toe on each foot. Good God, can you imagine? Yeah, right? But he was off to a good start early too. He's a guy that I think you could see come in that can get those tough yards in that RB3 role. Tavier Dunlap's been called out as well. And anyone who follows this show regularly knows someone we're a big fan of and somebody we've said we think will play early. Jordan Marshall, not an early enrollee. He got some shout outs in the last week from coaches. Sharon Moore saying it out loud, the part we've been saying, he's a Blake Corum comparison on and off the field, and he might be too good to not play this year. That's a good group. I haven't even mentioned a healthy Cole Cabana and the explosive electricity he potentially brings to that group. When I think about that running back group, you don't have Blake Corum. He's the greatest running back in Michigan history, potentially. I don't want to get into the Wheatley debate, stats-wise, whatever, recency bias, whatever you want to call it. You got to replace him with some combo of Edwards, Mullings, maybe Hall, whatever. But I've got a good mix of skill set here that can be weapons in the passing game, strong runners, shifty runners, paired with some explosive receivers. And then I bring in Alex Orji potentially, the reason, back to my original point why I think it might be him. And maybe I can actually run RPO. Not like where we've called it randomly, and we're not even sure if JJ was actually allowed to keep it. It was more kind of a gimmicky thing, and you're like, do we even practice this? No, can this actually be a part of the offense? Can we let Orji run? Can we have true option plays? Can I have Alex Orji, Donovan Edwards, and Khalil Mullings in the backfield at the same time? Right? Is that the identity if Kirk Campbell's willing to get creative with this offense and a different quarterback in there? That is the most intriguing option to me. And to your point, I don't know if the coaches are. I'm willing to risk some turnovers because I think that's a more explosive offense, and that's my path to victory with this defense that we're going to get to. But
yeah, and to go to your point with the RPO and not letting JJ keep it, I think part of that was the crippling fear of what would happen if JJ was hurt, got hurt. I mean, we saw it against Maryland. I mean, he played probably his outside of what game was that? The Bowling Green game. Probably it was his worst game of his career. No, I take that back. TCU was probably the worst game of his career, but Maryland was
350 yards or whatever. But yeah,
well, yeah, but
I know
a couple pick sixes or whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't know if you're more willing to run Alex Orji a little more, but knowing that you have a Jack Tuttle back there, if the worst case scenario happened, I don't know what that line of thinking is. Obviously, you don't want to put your guy in danger, but you also need to play to his strengths too.
Right.
So I don't know what that kind of
if you're picking Orji as your starter, you're doing it because he's a physical beast, he's a freak athlete, and he can run the ball. If you pick him and don't run him, then what the hell did you pick him for?
Yeah, right.
No, he might get hurt. I know it's a risk. Teach him to slide, whatever. But
I mean, a kid could blow out his ACL on any play during a game anyway.
Ronnie Bell.
There's always risk of injury. So I think you have to lean into the running side of who Alex Orji is. I mean, from a playmaking standpoint, we saw it in the spring game. He has the best shot of when a play breaks down.
I thought you were going to say calves.
Well, the best calves. Yeah, I mean, he's a big dude, which is a good thing he's got going for him too. I mean, that's a big dude. He can absorb some hits, but
he's a linebacker.
Yeah, and the funny thing is too is I always thought he was going to end up being a linebacker. I did too. When he came in, but here we are.
His brother was so good at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, exactly. So I think when you're talking about when a play breaks down and you need a guy to improvise.
Imagine if they were scared to run Denard for 4 years.
Yeah, but they didn't have anyone else. They couldn't. The offensive line was garbage,
and he did get hurt, and then ended up.
Yeah, I mean, he did get hurt, which cost him the Big Ten championship that year because Bellamy went in against Nebraska and totally stunk, and that ruined their chances of being in the Big Ten championship game that year too.
I don't want to get started. Devin Gardner playing. I've always wondered. I know Brady Hoke could. Oh my God, we're gonna get so off tangent here. I know Brady Hoke couldn't take the job.
It's what we do.
Fair enough. I know Brady Hoke could show up and then immediately Denard transfers.
Yeah.
Right. Because hey, Rich Rod, remember when Ryan Mallett ended up leaving?
Yep.
Right. Brady Hoke did everything possible to keep Denard. In hindsight, I wish they would have been like, dude, your future is a running back, wide receiver weapon. You're going to be our number one player, but we got Devin Gardner, and we think the two of you guys put him at quarterback and let you. Man, we never got. I mean, because he was even hurt when they did do that at the end of his career. But anyway, okay. Orji, running backs. Tell me a little bit. We were talking about Orji and the reason we think it would fit. Where
reactions, like the visceral reactions of these people going, oh no, Bellamy, oh, Devin Gardner playing wide receiver.
He was pretty good at it. He did good when he was a receiver. I think he was the leading receiver for a while there. Actually,
that dude was just an athlete, and he got ruined by Brady Hoke, which is really unfortunate. But look, it's funny. Look how far Michigan's come. You know,
imagine if he had been here in the Harbaugh era. My God,
yeah.
I don't think people realize what the potential Devin Gardner was. Anyway, okay. So we kind of talked about Alex Orji, his ability to run, and that's why we think he'd be the best fit. And that's kind of leading you into that with the running back conversation. So where are you on that? And you talked about Edwards. Is he going to be the 25, 30 carry guy? Is Mullings going to eventually – could Edwards be in a similar role to what he's been in? And Mullings actually gets a lot of the early down carries. And where do you think these other guys, Ben Hall and a Jordan Marshall, are we going to see more rotation like we haven't? I mean, there was a time when there were 4 or 5 backs playing in every game.
Yeah.
And then it kind of became Quorum, Haskins, Edwards, and then Quorum and Edwards.
Right.
The last couple of years. But
it got to the point where those guys kind of weeded themselves out because, you know, Dunlap would get in there and he'd fumble and you'd never see him again. CJ Stokes in particular too, fumble again. It just weeded themselves out, and now you're like, okay, let's go to people that we rely on. So I think if they've got guys that they can rely on, if Ben Hall doesn't fumble the ball, he'll play. If Tavi Dunlap doesn't fumble the ball, he'll play. I personally, my opinion, I think Jordan Marshall will jump someone on that depth chart and see playing time.
I agree.
Before the season's over, you know, right around, you usually kind of see if a true freshman's going to play and he's going to see some time, kind of right around that mid-season point where you hit that inflection point of a freshman kind of getting it. You know, I mean, I would be surprised if, I mean, there's some cases that these freshmen are just plug and play and then they'll be great. I don't think, considering the depth chart running back right now, that Jordan Marshall's a week 1 type of guy. I mean, if Michigan's blowing out Fresno State by like 50, then yeah, you'll probably see him.
Yeah.
But you can also kind of think about the reserving of the red shirt too, how that might work. Is it worth burning it, you know, after with the 4 games? So honestly, I think Michigan is totally fine with a 3 kind of headed monster type of deal with Donovan Edwards being your lead back, Mullings doing the dirty work that he does. Ben Hall, a little bit of both, probably more on the long side of Mullings. I think Cole Cabana is the closest thing that you have right now to Donovan Edwards from an athleticism standpoint.
Yep.
However, we don't know because he's been hurt. So we don't really know how that translates to the college side of things after we've saw him, you know, playing for Dexter. I'm kind of in the thing. Like, I don't know where Tavi Dunlap fits into this thing. You know, if they trust him, I mean, you can take the load off of Donovan Edwards, but you know, can you trust a guy like Hall?
Mark makes a really good point that I don't know I've even really talked about in all these conversations. Somebody's got to be able to stand back there and pick up blitzes.
True.
Protecting that quarterback.
That's a good point, Mark. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And that's something Blake Corum was really good at, and Edwards had his moments, but
fantastic. Yeah, and Steve, I don't want to leave out Capana too.
He's so fast, dude.
I don't know if he's going to factor in this year, but he certainly will. I mean, his athleticism, you can't keep that off the field. I mean,
there's going to be a thunder and lightning era of Jordan Marshall and Micah Capana. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, we're going to see how it plays out. Donovan Edwards, who, I mean, any chance I have a chance to shout this out, I think his candidness, his vulnerability that he's shown with his mental health conversation going back to before the Washington game is incredible. And we're seeing more of it with this generation of players. I think it's fantastic.
I agree.
he is in a place physically and mentally that he hasn't been in his time at Michigan, right? And he's asked to take on this leadership role. I talked about recently an article where I wrote, I think he is the bridge of this whole continuity experiment, right? We had the one more year guys. We had the unfinished business. He is a part of all of it. He stayed committed to this team after the 2020 season and going 2-4. Came in and contributed as a freshman on the 21 team. In 22, we find out he was hurt too, but he steps up. I mean, you don't have the Ohio State game without Donovan Edwards, right? And then last year, look, he's acknowledged the struggles he had, right? He's got to overcome those this year. He's got to be more consistent. The home runs are there. We know it.
Mm-hmm.
He's a home run hitter. But for this offense to work, especially without J.J. McCarthy, who was 70% on 3rd and long or whatever his ridiculous 3rd and long stats were.
Insane stat.
Yeah. Dude, you got to get me 5 yards on a first down.
Yep.
You got to get that extra yard or two like Haskins and Corum did. He's a home run hitter. He's got to have the ball in his hands. He's going to get carries. If he's getting a lot of those 1 or 2 yard runs and he's not seeing those gaps and hitting those, I think Mullings will start getting more of those early down carries. Edwards is still going to get his, right? But that'll be, and then it'll be interesting how they rotate Hall into that. I'm with you. I'm not sleeping on Dunlap, and I wouldn't be shocked. Hopefully, it's not because of injuries, but I wouldn't be shocked if Jordan Marshall gets some early looks and blowouts, and then all of a sudden it's maybe a little bit earlier in the game, and then maybe it's a little bit more carries. And then maybe he's a big factor later in the year and he's RB3,
Yeah.
We'll see. But
yeah, I think everything Edwards has done this offseason is kind of to be in preparation of being that workhorse 25
guy.
Dude's
yoked, man.
Yeah.
Huge.
Noticeably larger. I know Kurt Campbell said today he cut weight a little bit today. Has cut weight recently. But, I mean, there's a durability factor that plays into all of this too. And, and it's not Donovan's fault. I mean, there's some durability concerns that he's shown over the last couple of years. And, whether that's, him not putting on the weight or whatever, it's something that you have to be cognizant about. And he knows that. I mean, that's one of the major reasons why he was kind of in a mental rut. Last year, because he was behind the 8 ball because he didn't play in spring. And we kind of really downplayed that. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say I don't want to lump you into my conversations, but I felt
I think I did
too. Need him in the spring, but it really goes to show what a full healthy spring does for a player. And
Corum had it too.
Yeah.
Corum had his moment, and he even said that, like, you got to learn to trust that leg again.
Yep.
Right. And stuff like that. And he eventually kind of switch went off as the season went on. And for Donovan, it didn't. But I mean, do you remember when Donovan, I can't think of which game it was, but he got stopped like right at the 1, and then they brought Blake in for the touchdown.
Oh yeah. That was,
and he was visibly frustrated on the sideline.
Yeah, man. What game was that? It was kind of like the mid-ish season.
Yeah, it's the early mid part of the season.
He didn't
have a touchdown yet. And that was frustrating. And Blake and Corum went over and talked to him, and they got through it. But that was a moment for me where I'm like, I'm surprised by that. It wasn't bad. It wasn't anything egregious. But that was like, Donovan's frustrated.
Indiana, yes. Thank you, Detroit
Indiana
fan.
Yeah, Donovan's frustrated, and you could just see from a body language standpoint. And then that obviously kind of started to change towards the end of the year, and he accredited his teammates. Jared Wangler was somebody he shouted out as well, just to be there for him and get him in the right space. And then the dude gets 2 home run touchdowns against Washington, and momentum's on his side, man.
Mm-hmm.
He reminded everybody who he is and what he can do on the biggest stage, and he's in a good spot mentally, and like you said, physically, and then he's a leader on this team. And he comes back, and he's got this vibe about him right now that I think he's gonna have a big year, and I hope he does. But we're almost an hour into just offense, so I do want to talk on the offensive line though, because we got some nuggets on O line today too. all the receivers, the quarterback, running back, everything we're talking about, Michigan's success hinges on an offensive line that has talented starters and depth, has for 3 years. Last year, we heard all this talk about having 2 starting offensive lines. We got 16 dudes that can play, and they might have gotten a little cute with rotating the guys and actually trying to figure out who the starting 5 was. They didn't win the Joe Moore Award, fine, but that was still a really, really good offensive line. We can get it a tackle guard, whatever. There's 5 new starters this year, right? We've talked about this. Miles Hinton's your starter at left tackle. Josh Preeb brings some experience as well from Northwestern transfer. Him and Giovanni El Hadi are playing guard. I keep getting mixed on who's left and right, so I still don't know which is which yet for sure, definitively. And then we got 2 position battles. Greg Crippen and Raheem Anderson battling at center. A little surprised by that, but those are 2 guys that have waited their turn behind Olu and Nugent. And then Andrew Gentry and Jeffrey Percy are battling at right tackle. Mm-hmm. What stuck out to me was Campbell admitted that's their depth right there right now. Those are their 7 guys. He said we probably had 9 or 10 last year. We've got 7 right now. And you need more than that, whether it's from injuries or rotations, whatever. Your 5 starters are important, but a lot of guys have played in the last few years. So, he was really frank. He just said, look, somebody's got to step up. That's just the reality of it. Yeah. So where are you on O-line? Because what Sharon Moore has done as offensive line coach, OC, as long as he's been around the program, what Michigan's done the last 3 years, I think they earn a lot of benefit of the doubt. But if this was another team and you told me 5 new starters and only 2 of them have actually had starting experience before and blah, 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 I'd be like, and there's a new line coach. Yeah. I don't think I'd be screaming, oh yeah, that sounds like a group that's going to be really, really good, right? So are we giving them too much credit? Have they earned it? Is this going to be a really good O-line, or could this be a problem? Especially,
I think they've earned it. I don't see too many college programs boasting even 7 or 8 offensive linemen that are ready to go. I don't think Michigan needs 10 or this year. If they can get to 8, that's perfect.
Yep.
That's just so incredibly rare what Michigan had last year. In this day and age of the transfer portal and all that stuff, what Michigan was able to accomplish in terms of depth in the trenches, period, defensive and offensive side of the ball, incredibly, incredibly rare. So the fact that they even have 7 guys that they can lean on right now is still impressive as hell. So if they can get to 8 or 9 guys that they can rely on, I think they'll be just fine. I do think they need guys to kind of still take steps forward, specifically Miles Hinton. I think he has the highest ceiling out of all of those guys.
They put a lot of confidence into him going into this year.
Yeah, and they've really kind of laid it out there like, hey, he's got to take a step forward this year. He's got all the talent in the world. He just needs to do it. And I think, he's a 5th-year guy, a 6-year guy. It's there. It's all there, and as Steve mentioned in the comments here, Crippen and Anderson, both of those guys could technically be starters. So I'll be curious to see if can Anderson play a guard or
Anderson can. I'm not sure on Crippen, but I know Anderson.
Yeah. So you've kind of got a guy that, can be versatile in that regard, but I think they've got the goods. I mean, Preeb is a from what I was told, was an absolute beast during spring, and that's to be expected. I mean, you're talking about a guy that has 3 years starting experience, although for Northwestern, it all counts just the same in terms of games played.
He's just got, if he can be Trevor Keegan light, he doesn't even need to be as good as Trevor Keegan was.
Right. And the same thing goes for all of those guys, really. They don't have to be exact replicas of the year before. Crippen doesn't need to be Olu. He doesn't need to be Nugent. But if he can be on that same kind of path, he'll be just fine. Hinton can be just fine. I think he can be on that Ladarius Henderson type of path that he had last year.
I think he can be way better.
I mean, I think so too. But if
that's not a shot at Henderson.
No, not at all.
Henderson was a left guard that they threw at left tackle.
Right.
Right. I mean, granted, he played left tackle early in his career, blah, 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 whatever. But I've talked about this too. We had 4 guards. Michigan last year, we saw there were 4 guards playing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Jones, when he came at right tackle and they moved Barnhart to guard, that ended up working out, whatever. Jones had an argument at right tackle, but you didn't have that pass blocking left tackle. We know that. Look at what happened in Penn State.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hinton can be that. He's been it. It's that consistency. Do it every time.
Yep.
If he does it every time, he's going to be all Big Ten left tackle. The dude's a monster. He looks good too. He's transformed too. So
yeah, I mean, they've got their tackle position is super interesting on the left and right. I mean, you've got Andrew Gentry, who has played a little bit. It's kind of it's right there. We've said this so many times with different spots on this team. It's that if these guys can play to potential, if these guys can step forward, it's a lot of if-then statements. Yeah. And that's kind of what it is with football, regardless of this team in general. But if Michigan can get the most out of Hinton and Gentry, then I think you could see an improved offensive line here statistically, which might be a hot take, but I think both Hinton and Gentry are that good in terms of their, ceilings. And we'll kind of see everything in between. I think Crippen is going to be your starting center, and I think he's going to be very good. El Hadi is going to be very good. I think he's way overdue to start. And then I just kind of build it out from there. I mean, what can Percy bring you? What can Evan Link bring you? What can Tristan Bounds bring you? There's if they can get to that 8 or 9 guy.
When you just named the guys, Tristan Bounds, Evan Lake, Natophobia, I would throw into that list as well. Yeah. One of those guys has to come from that trio.
Yep. So,
let me try and nail some of these questions because people were asking the 4th tackle. I was surprised Frazier was playing so much tackle in spring. I've long thought he would end up at guard anyway. He's got the frame to add weight, but he was only 260 pounds.
Yeah, I don't think he's ready yet physically.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get to a place. But it appears that his future could be at tackle, which, hey, if you're going to wear 77, I love it. Yeah. Andrew Sprague, I don't think I have to tell anybody. I'm very, very high on him. I think he's
I'm making a definitive statement. He's going to be the best one out of the group.
Yeah.
Close.
He's the next future great left tackle in Michigan history. I think he's going to be awesome. Yeah. He did not enroll early. I don't know how much that's going to impact. It's hard to break through as a freshman on the O-line anyway, at Michigan. I know, like you said, what a luxury. We're like, man, we need a 9th guy, right? Yeah. I don't know. If one did, my pick would be Andrew Sprague. If one was going to get into any sort of rotation or 2 deep, but those 2 guys, Hamilton, Roebuck, Garnera, like I wouldn't be surprised if we see all 5 starting at some point, junior, senior year, whatever it happens or whatever. That's a really, really good group.
Yeah, I agree.
You brought up El Hadi. Props to him for sticking it out. When that dude came in and filled in for Trevor Keegan, there were times there was little to no drop off. There was a couple games he actually ended up graded out better when he filled in for Keegan. He's really, really good. Yeah. And we've seen this with transfers time and time again. When they come from bad teams, you brought up, look, Preeb was at Northwestern, right? When you come to a team where you're not the only really good player in your group anymore, you get better because you have really good players surrounding you. People thought Josh Wallace was going to end up like, oh my gosh, early transfer. They hired his mom. Lions.
Yep. Wayne Lyons? Wayne Lyons?
Yeah, Wayne Lyons, I think. I remember we were talking about that on the board. They're like, he probably won't ever see the field,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? Because he was really good at UMass, where maybe he didn't have a safety like Rod Moore, who was always in the right spot, or the pass rush of Derek Moore, Josiah Stewart, Jalen Harrell, Braden McGregor, Mason Graham, right? So with Preeb, they haven't released the roster yet. That's tomorrow. the first day of camp is measurements and stuff like that. So we'll probably know within a couple of days, week tops, what their weight is now, because what they did in the spring, I literally have a spreadsheet with formulas built in so I can copy it over and figure out what the weight changes are. The spring roster, they literally kept the weights and the heights and stuff the same from the previous year. And all the freshmen, it was just whatever their recruiting profile said.
Yep.
So the only thing we knew about weight changes in the spring was what they said out loud. We're going to learn a lot on this fall roster because we haven't seen anything for almost a year.
Yeah, if they give us something.
Yeah, they just do the same thing again.
Yeah, that's asking Michigan to do a lot to help us out. But hey,
damn it, I need to know how much they weigh.
Yeah, exactly.
And never forget, folks. All weight gain is good, and all weight loss is good, right? Mm-hmm. Weight gain, he bulked up, he added the muscle he needed. He lost the weight, he's gotten more athletic and faster, right?
Yeah. Everything you see on the roster, you should overreact to. Absolutely. Michigan's winning a natty just on weight gains alone.
Currently, Breon Ishmael is my winner of that award.
God, that guy's
Remember, we were like, oh, is it going to be a linebacker? I don't know. 45 pounds from his recruiting point. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything before we get into defense a little bit. I think we feel good. Okay. So, Wink, the OG. I love the way he has embraced not only the positivities of the character that he is or people think he is, he's also people have viewed as a negative or a concern or, however you want to categorize this. Dude doesn't hide from anything. We talked about the Don Brown comparisons today, right? And being blitz happy or trying to fix something that's not broken with the defense or, just this kind of mentality. Granted, when Mike McDonald was hired, people were like, oh, we're just taking the guy that his brother recommended. Oh, Minter. Oh, another brother guy from Vanderbilt. Right. So again, but talk a little bit about Wink today, kind of not ignoring that elephant in the room, if you will, that the fan base's concerns about his blitzing and scheme changes.
Yeah, it's funny. Rashad mentioned this too. I'm sick of the blitzing questions. Yeah, I mean, everyone blitzes, whether it's, you're not going to be called Dr. Blitz. Some Michigan fans hope, but, Wink's been around the block a long time. You can tell by his IDGAF attitude when it comes to football and like scheme talk in general. He knows his scheme. He knows it works, and he's not afraid to tell you that it works. And as he should. I mean, he's been around the block a few times. He's manned some very, very good defenses in the NFL. Coming into a situation where he's taking over the defense that he kind of pioneered, or not kind of pioneered, he did pioneer. I think it's fine to add a couple more wrinkles onto it. They're not changing what they are. They're going to be multiple. There's going to be a defense. There's always going to be a counterpunch to whatever team throws against Michigan. And I think that's why Michigan is probably going to be one of the better prepared schools in the Big Ten to compete against the Oregons, Washingtons, and USCs, just because Michigan's defense is so multiple and that it's seen so much. And not to mention every single position coach on the defense has been a coordinator. So they've seen it all too. So this is why I think Michigan's going to be the better prepared program in the Big Ten in preparing for the newcomers from the West Coast. So, he basically, broke it down. He's like, I'm not going to shy away from doing my thing. It's gotten me this far. I'm not going to change it up. Obviously we got to put our players in position to be successful and kind of cater around to what they have. But he doesn't strike me as the type that's going to square peg round hole it type of thing where he's trying to jam it to make it work, unlike a previous defensive coordinator that Michigan had. That's why he's getting the unfortunate comparisons because of the blitz. He mentioned a good point too. When they was asked about the Don Brown comparisons and stuff, he says, no one complains when you're number one defense in the nation. But when you lose, you start to complain.
Don Brown's entire legacy was defined on losing to Ohio State.
Yeah. Yep.
Or frankly, the change I liked the most, and I hope continues to stay. Don Brown's goal was to shut you down and to take your best player out of the game. And inevitably what happened was, whether it was 80 or 90% of the time you were shutting them down, they beat you with that other 10%. Yep. The Penn State game always sticks out to me. They had like 6 plays, right? Frankly, they were losing the way Michigan's beating teams, right? We've heard Ohio State talk about, it was just a few big plays, right? We've been there. We know what that feels like. It's frustrating as hell. Still lost, right?
Yep.
What we saw with McDonald and Minter, I've been going on a Chargers podcast and talking about Minter, and kind of, they're excited about him, but you're not going to shut down Saquon Barkley. You're not going to shut down these best players. Let them get some plays, right? Especially between the 20s, right? Don't let them get the 50-yard touchdown, because it's harder to score in the red zone. And you have a really good red zone defense. If they move on you a little bit, fine. Don't let them score. Get turnovers. We saw it with Bama. Milroe was going to scramble and make some plays, right? But they sacked him early. Don't let him hit the deep throw. Keep the roof on the defense, right?
Don't break.
Yeah. And get the turnovers and get the sacks, and you have the elite talent to do it. I think what's been cool with Wink, and I don't want to go position by position necessarily. I don't think we need to do that. It's been cool to see him get excited about the players he has here. Because this is a guy coming from the NFL, and his most successful run was with the Baltimore Ravens, right? Think about the dudes this guy has coached on defense, right? And he's coming in and looking at Derek Moore and Josiah Stewart, and he's blown away. He's like, what do you mean they weren't like full-time starters? You rotated these guys?
Yeah.
You took this dude off the field? What? Right? Jayshon Barham's obviously transfer in, so he's kind of new for everybody. We talked a little bit about him and his knowledge of the defense and what a freak guy he's going to be. Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant. He's got some things to play with. He's got some tools here, right? And I think his blitzes are kind of misunderstood too. Minter brought 5 a lot. I don't think people realize that. Or what he also did was disguised blitzes and delayed blitzes, right? And having versatile guys that can drop back into coverage, and then you send a Barham, or you send an Ernest Hausman instead, or maybe you have a 5-man defensive front like we've seen before, where they do kind of a 5-2 set, the 3 DTs, right? That's what it's about. Putting a bunch of dudes up front. The QB has absolutely no idea who's coming or going. That's the scheme, right? I don't think this is going to be the same as Don Brown blitzing and leaving corners on an island.
Yeah. Safeties on an island, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Which, hey, you got Will Johnson, Jair Hill. Got another shout out. And let's talk a little bit about that. The position. There are some position battles here. I was surprised. Sharon Moore during Big Ten Media Days, basically, it was like Jair Hill's the starter at CB2. I'm not surprised by that news, because that was not news to him or DJ Waller at the end of spring camp. Right. That Hill was leading that spot. He did say Amir Hall and Ricky Johnson, the 2 transfers, are competing there. But it sounds like Hill across from Will Johnson. That could be. And then the nickel position, replacing Mike Sainer still. That might be the biggest question for this defense. You don't replace Mike Sainer still. Zeke Berry's kind of felt like the leader to be in that nickel safety hybrid spot. He did say that today. Wink said that today about Zeke, but sounds like, they are going to try some other guys out there. Jaden McBurrows is a dude who's kind of gone back and forth between that slot and outside corner role. And then you do have a Cody Jones. And then with these safeties they've brought in, Jaden Mangum's a guy that could kind of be in that safety nickel hybrid kind of spot as well. So I'm going to be really interested to see what they do as far as safety corner and nickel and that kind of rotation too. But
yeah, I think the defensive back group as a whole is in a far, far better position than they were in the spring. Before spring, after spring, during spring.
Lamar Morgan, man.
Lamar Morgan, man. He's a good one. Michigan fans should be really happy with him right now, and his ability to land guys. I think the beauty with what they're doing on especially with the safeties is that they've added guys who can do different things well. I haven't looked at the PFF grades in a while from last year because I've kind of turned the page on that. But
turn the page.
I think Mangum, if I'm like remembering correctly, I think Mangum was better against the rush defense than he was in passing defense, which of course, because Michigan State's passing defense was absolutely garbage.
But he was their best defender in the secondary for whatever that's worth. But
and then you had a guy like Amir Hall, who's better in pass coverage. Obviously, Amir Hall is not going to be a safety, but he's going to be a corner. But you replace a guy who has a high ceiling to the port. You lose him to the portal, and then you replace him with a guy who is an FCS All-American. I think I don't think it speaks. It speaks a lot to a player. I mean, FCS, is FCS, but you're talking about the best. Man. Yeah, either you can play or you can't play, and he can play. So they've got depth, they've got options. I think that's hugely important to kind of take that pressure off of Jair Hill too a little bit. Jaden McBurrows too, another guy that was mentioned today. Kind of fought his way back from injury.
Yep.
To see the field. They're hoping he takes a step. So again,
he strikes me as the more I mean, he literally hurt himself hitting somebody a couple years ago.
Yep.
He strikes me as the guy that can come up and impact the run game and maybe blitz and get up to the quarterback. He's the more physical dude. And Zeke Berry can do that. Mangum, you're right. Mangum's run defense grade was better than pass. He did have 4 interceptions.
Thank you.
From the highlight. From the highlights, I've seen a couple, like one was a tip and one was just like a horrible pass, and he happened to be the guy there. So, and look, all this talk about the safeties too, you forget Bakari Page is back.
Yeah.
And Quentin Johnson is back.
Yep.
And I will not pretend Keon Sabb is not a loss.
No, of course not.
I was very excited about.
I think it's only. I will give you that, but I think it's only a loss because Rod Moore got hurt. That's the only reason I will say that's a loss.
Yeah. Well,
and they're also not ruling out Rod Moore coming back at some point this year.
He talked a little bit about that. Yeah. It'll obviously depend on when he gets healthy, and then he'll have a decision to make. I've been pretty consistent on this. I don't think anybody's going to disagree. If he gets healthy at some point and he decides he doesn't want to risk playing, that dude has done absolutely everything he needs to do for Michigan. He didn't need to try and come back this year. So if he does happen to play again and we get to see him in a Michigan uniform and he can help Michigan in November, I'm here for it, dude. But whatever he decides, you do you, Rod. Right? But Sabb opens the door. You feel a lot better, Wesley. This is gonna mess me up for a long time. Wesley Walker, not Wes Welker. He's another kind of hard-hitting safety that can come in. Also plays a little bit more center field for Tennessee. He's going to be a factor. Those are your transfer additions. And I haven't even brought up the guy I think could be the next Keon Sabb, and that's Brandon Hillman.
Yeah,
that's another guy that's kind of got that linebacker safety vibe, like a Khaleke Hudson or whatever. That's going to factor in too. This was a group we were concerned about, and now it's like, all right, that is, Mark Quinn had some huge hits. Yeah, that's a heavy hitting group, man. And Page being the leader of it all, he's really opened up this year. And I've talked about his story a bunch of times too. This is a kid who could have absolutely transferred, been completely dejected, was thrown to the wolves in 2020, man.
Yep.
thrown to the wolves. He had no business being out there in that system, in that scheme, in that time, right? And 2021 comes back, doesn't really play a ton, and then works his way back up, ends up getting significant snaps, and now he's a long-time starter and valuable piece of this Michigan run. And I just, West Bloom kid, whatever, but that he easily could have left after what he went through, man.
Absolutely.
He's in that Michael Barrett, kind of territory in terms of the Harbaughism with overcoming adversity, blah, blah, whatever. But yeah, so I'm excited about the secondary. I don't think we need to talk about Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. Everybody knows what those guys are.
Yeah.
You got the best defensive tackle in college football, then maybe second, third, fourth, whatever. A couple first-round picks there. Other guys are going to have to step up from depth. Rayshon Benny, you hope, is healthy. Trey Pierce is a guy that's going to have to step up. Ike
Awana.
Thank you. Awana. He's been getting shout-outs at different times. Wink shouted him out today that he said in like a month he got in really good shape. And
he had a monster. He mentioned he had a monster conditioning.
Yeah, something he struggled with in the past.
Player, so he said only one player failed the conditioning test this year. I don't know who it is, and I'm not going to bother even finding out or calling that person out because none of my business.
Well, that speaks to some of the continuity with strength and conditioning too. So
right, yeah, I know that was kind of discussed a while ago, and I think we skipped over that question. We apologize, but there hasn't been any drop off from strength and conditioning standpoint in terms of from Herbert to Tress. I mean, Tress is not Herbert,
right?
But I think he's done a really good job of being put into a really crappy situation and doing the best that he can with it. And I mean, from everyone's healthy heading into camp besides one player, knock on wood. I said heading into camp. Other than one player, obviously Rob Moore. And again, that's a strength and conditioning thing. And so I don't think there's been a significant or any drop off. I think it's just continued the trains continue to move forward. So no concerns with strength and conditioning. There were initial concerns. I know the first thing that we were told right off the bat was like, man, this guy doesn't have any, he has not ran his own show, and to get the job at Michigan, that's a big one. But the guy's done nothing but work hard and just continue on what he's helped build with Herbert. So in the nutrition part with Abigail O'Connor, keeping her in, people made fun of me for saying how big of a hire or how big of a deal it was to keep her. It's a big deal. And she's loved there. She's a rock star at her job. And that's huge. It's huge. Those two things that go together, and having really good people at those spots, you're seeing the benefits continue to happen at Michigan. So,
well, and Sharon Moore has the same reason we're seeing success in recruiting. Something else Wink talked about. Kirk talked about this as well. We've seen Sharon Moore do his vision of bulking up the staff and getting these folks more resources and more help.
Yep.
And Michigan has great people, and he's surrounded these great people like Abigail and Justin with more help.
Yep.
Right. And they're also, I called out Abigail during the barbecue at the Big House too, because Sharon and Campbell and Wink and a lot of these guys I've been talking about, like, they're not scared to embrace the things they hear. They know what was said about that barbecue food last year. Right? So they roasted a pig. They got all the vegetables. They got chicken. Right? And Chef, I can't think of his name now. I feel bad. I don't want to say it, but and shouting out these folks and the whole team effort. I think it's been cool. But that's what it is, man. And to Sharon's credit too, day one, and Tress, they had no speech, no, trying to talk these guys into anything. That first lift, they literally treated it like any other day and let everybody show up, do their work, go through it like it was any other day. Mm-hmm. And then when it got done, they said, all right, guys, was that different?
Yeah.
And that's how they sold it. right? Ben Herbert's a loss because Ben Herbert's a great dude too, right? And
Right.
the relationships he had. But I think they've done a really good job of being like, let us show you.
Yeah, and
It's gonna
I've
be the same.
spoken with multiple recruits who
Yep.
I'm not sure if these recruits have actually spoken to Ben Herbert at all, but they continue to say, hey, like the strength and conditioning program's top notch. Justin Tress is awesome. I mean, the dude's not an idiot. He gets it. He understands the importance of building relationships, and he's seen it firsthand. He had the best mentor to take over. You can say this exact same thing for Sharon Moore. You know, he's not an idiot. He gets it. He's had the best mentor to model your program after, and it just so happens both of those guys are taking over programs that they're right there, have been right there and grown it with them. So
yeah, they're replacing their mentors.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Tress came from Arkansas. Like he wasn't some random dude. He's been his right-hand man for a while. Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, obviously running a football program is completely different than running a strength and conditioning program within a program. But
program.
You know, obviously, and you got to win games too, and that's a whole different conversation. But, you know, I think Michigan, considering when you look at succession plans and how often they haven't worked, or you've had, you know, middling success, I think Michigan's in the best position to jumpstart from where they are to continue to keep going. I mean, obviously, it's very hard to jumpstart from a national championship, and you know, it's going to be very interesting to see if they can repeat. I mean, it's going to take a lot of.
I think in a weird way, all the changes to college football has kind of helped them too.
Yeah,
like everything feels so new and different. Like Michigan was the last champion of that era, and now you have the conference adding 4 teams, the playoff expanding. It's like, well, let's all kind of get our feet in the water first,
right?
You know,
and
now, you go 7-5, we're going to be talking about something completely different.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. I had a point I was going to make, and I totally forgot.
I interrupted you? No way.
No. It just went, just gone. It's
my
gone.
bad, dog. My bad.
No, it's not even your fault. It was just my dumb brain.
It'll come to you in a minute. We're bouncing around like crazy today because I didn't have an outline, but who cares? I did want to touch on one position before we move on, though, on the defense. I talked about Moore and Stewart. I think you're more of the Moore guy. I'm more of the Stewart guy. We both think they're great. Both could have big years, but in terms of the sack leader, my money's on Stewart.
I'll take them both.
But, yeah, whatever, right? I do think Michigan's going to lean in their strengths. They rotated so much because the drop-off between those top 4 didn't exist, right? So you could rotate. Somebody's going to have to prove that there's minimal to no drop-off to get heavy in rotation. Otherwise, you know, could we see a Hutchinson Ojabo type thing where those guys are on the field a bunch? Absolutely. You know, Derek Moore, too, is a guy that very much like Hutchinson can be a hand in the dirt 4-3 defensive tackle, can be a standing edge, can be a 4-3 D end. He can do a lot of things, right? That's not far out. I wouldn't be shocked. I said something the other day. Mason Graham could lead the team in sacks.
I'll take it all.
There was a PFF graphic about who the best pass rusher in college football was, and it was obviously edge rushers, and I retweeted it with a picture of Mason Graham.
Yeah,
look it up, man. The dude's ridiculous. But anyway, do you think we're going to see a 2-headed monster, or is this the year TJ Guy breaks out and gets into rotation? Ed is a guy we've talked a ton about on that strong side as well.
There's my argument.
There's your boy, Cam Brandt, and then we'll get into a freshman that's been getting some love as well. But yeah, where are you at with?
I was going to say, don't forget about Eda. I think they've got the depth at edge to rotate guys and be very successful. I even wouldn't rule out a guy like Devin Baxter or a Buckeye. I think they've got the guys there to make an impact, but obviously Derek Moore and Josiah Stewart are going to lead the charge there. I do think Eda is going to have something to say about that. Absolutely. I think he's going to have a really huge year. I think it's very rare that the hype from coaches almost doesn't match the production on the field, and the way Etta is constantly being talked up, it's almost like it's impossible for him to not have a big year, or at least I wouldn't say big because big is subjective, to have a really good year. And I think he's going to do well on the edge. TJ Guy is going to have some say in all of that. Dominic Nichols, I can't believe I didn't even mention Dominic Nichols.
When you said Devin Baxter, I wondered if you met Dominic Nichols.
Yeah, I got the two confused. Yeah, I got the two confused. Dominic Nichols, yes.
Nichols is a big boy.
Yeah, he's going to play.
When Derek Moore was a freshman at the spring game, I remember Dennis and I were both there, and he was like, "Oh my God, that's Nichols this year." I was like, "Oh my God, like,
yeah,
that dude looks grown." Like, real quick, because everybody's asking, is that an edge? He played the edge strong side role is kind of where they envisioned him. Lou Esposito talked a little bit about how they did play him at both sides, or outside and inside in the spring, and they felt like playing him inside helped him technique wise in a way where he's gonna be a better pass rusher on the outside.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked if early Mike Morris, right? 2021 Morris played outside and inside in NASCAR packages when Hutch stayed out. I wouldn't be shocked if he moves around quite a bit. God, if he gets up even bigger, then yeah, maybe he's DT permanently. But I think they like him as a big outside pass rusher.
Your average fan asked for a Benny update. As far as I'm aware, he's full go tomorrow. I'm almost positive he's a full participant in camp tomorrow. Well, I mean, they're not playing in pads, obviously, but.
So I thought he'd be a full go at some point and he'll be ready for the game.
Well, I was told he'd be ready to go for the season. So.
Okay. That I know he plans on playing in the first game for sure and being a full go at fall camp at some point.
I'll see if I can find that out.
That'd be fantastic. You're right though. I mean, they're doing early workout drills and shorts and t-shirts.
Yeah, he was done. I was almost positive he was done rehabbing. So
yeah,
barring something unforeseen, he will be fine for game one.
Let's put it that way. That's fair. Okay. Yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong. I hadn't heard.
No, I didn't take it that way at all. I'm almost positive that he is going to be.
That's a game changer, a healthy Benny.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because I know he was asked, Sharon Moore was asked during the media days and said he was good to go. So I took that as good to go for fall camp day one. But
yeah, because
Cole, we didn't mention Cole Sullivan too, the linebacker. Hybrid guy. He's gonna play. He's gonna play.
I think those are, if you're looking for, if you're in a not betting, but like if you're trying to pick two dudes, freshmen on defense that can be early contributors, Dominic Nichols and Cole Sullivan seem like the obvious choices. 100%. And I mean, I know we've said multiple times the spring game doesn't necessarily transfer to the field, blah, 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 whatever, but go back and watch the spring game. Those two made some big plays. I mean, not
technique. More often than not.
Right. I mean, Sullivan's putting, oh my gosh, dude, my brain. Lineman that transferred to Kansas.
Amir Herring.
Thank you. Cole Sullivan put him on his butt in that spring game too. Yeah. Right. So I like him a lot. I've told you, I
do too.
I think he's Chase Winovich 2.0. I don't know if that means he'll stay at linebacker. Maybe he's a Sam role. Maybe he grows into a true edge. I don't know, but he's a football player, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be really, really good. I'm excited about him. Healthy Benny rotating in there. And then Cam Brandt, we mentioned a little bit in that, potentially in that role.
He had some early last year. He kind of had some, Harbaugh was shouting him out last year.
Yeah.
As a guy that had potential. So
he gives me Jenkins vibes in that, being a tweener that can develop into a monster kind of thing.
Yep.
But look, I think this is a top 5 defense again.
I don't disagree at all. I think just the fact that you've got Will Johnson, Kenneth Grant, and
it's not a no star defense anymore. There's stars on this.
I'll throw Barham into that mix too. I'll throw a Barham into that mix. I think he's going to be a superstar. Honestly, I think he's that good. Just put him on a defense that's good.
Exactly.
That guy is going to wreak havoc.
2-year starter at Maryland. I mean, if he had been here the whole time, that's Colston, that's Devin Bush. That's the kind of player he's going to be.
I was reading a stat, or I think I heard it.
We talked about him earlier, Ishmael. Yeah, he's a monster. Love that dude.
I read it. I don't know if I read it or I heard it on a broadcast, but the last 3 cycles, I don't think it was this one, but the last 3 cycles, Maryland lost their best player. Mm-hmm. Chop Robinson.
Yes, I don't think people remember Chop was there.
Yeah, they lost Chop Robinson to Penn State. Stud. They had stud. They can recruit well. Yeah. It's just
there's a reason Michigan loves getting into the DMV, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Derek
Barham is going to be an absolute.
Moore and Barham were teammates in high school, weren't they? Yeah. Forgot about that.
Yep.
No, I'm with you, Barham, and we're so excited about Barham. Like you forget, like how good Ernest Hausman's
Ernest Hausman.
Oh my God,
and they're hoping for Rolder to take a next step too. Yeah. I mean, he's been banged up a lot, so I mean, it's unfortunate, but yeah, I mean, there's guys on that defense that they can absolutely be number one.
They're elite at all 3 levels, man.
Yeah.
So to come full circle, if you got the top 5 defense, you've got the playmakers on offense, you think you have the pieces to put together an O-line that can be cohesive and do what you've done. You like your running back room. You got to pick a quarterback and mold the identity around him. But it's a big question and unknown, and I think that's why people are struggling to identify what they think is going to happen this year, right? I think the defense is good enough that Michigan's going to win all the games they should, and should be good enough to win one of the 3 they're technically not supposed to based on, being underdogs or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So they should be in that 9-3, 10-2 conversation, in my opinion. That we've talked about this already. The Texas game, its importance because of how early it is in the year and the rocket ship that could put you on if you win that game. But if you lose it, it doesn't really hurt you. It's not a Big Ten game, right? The expanded playoff, blah, 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 whatever. But I don't know. Oh, hold on. Let me respond to this. Don't know which guard is which, blah, blah, blah. The coaches literally said during spring practice that El Hadi was getting reps at left guard. Miles Hitton also said that as well. There's pictures posted on the Michigan account showing them rotating, but thanks. You got to just pull it out of my ass. They rotated the guys, man. Get over it. Anyway, where was I going before that?
Oh, Jesus. Get.
I'm not ready to pick results yet.
Pardon my French.
Look, like Josh said, like I'll have conversation and blah, blah, but like I'm wrong a lot. And I'm honest about that when I can't think of guys' names and stuff like that. But dude, like, I don't know. Tell me I'm wrong, you gotta be right. Right? Like, I do think Preem's gonna be the left guard.
I got distracted by the Central Michigan firing their quarterback coach.
Oh.
They fired their quarterback coach today. Yep.
What's his name?
It's right here. Oh, this stupid ad blocker. Shoot, it's gone now. Oh, Jake Kostner. He used to be an analyst for Michigan and rumored to be the guy that got Connor Stalions on the Central side.
So that's where I was going with that.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious if they're tipped off to NOA or something. I mean, that's interesting timing to say the least.
Yeah.
But I mean, camp is just about to start. So, I mean, they're like making wholesale. So to be fair, Central Michigan's making like wholesale changes on their offense, which right before fall camp starts, it's probably the best time to do it. That's sarcasm, by the way, just in case anyone else wants to get in the comments and say something.
Yeah. Well, that leads us into the anyway. What I was going to say is I'm not in a position, or I don't feel ready to start predicting season results. I know every year we're really lucky. Scott Bell includes us in his expert predictions, which I looked back and I was pretty bad last year. I got Samaj Morgan right as breakout freshman, but other than that, I got a lot of stuff wrong. But anyway, so I'm not sure where I am yet on season results or any of that. I want to see some stuff in fall. But anyway, I mean, I don't know if it's because we're getting closer to the season or what. Like rival fan bases have been, and obviously the Netflix documentary, the Stallions thing, has been up in the news like crazy. Our fellow beat folks on the Michigan beat over at the Wolverine shared their thoughts that they heard an NOA was coming soon, and then a blip about a potential postseason ban got the most traction in that. So you shared some thoughts on the board. I shared some intel I got as well from some folks I've talked to. I don't know. Where do you sit? What do you want to say about it?
Well, I mean, we've been adamant for however long this thing's been going on for, like longer than 6 months. I mean, longer than 6 months now. It's almost trending towards a year, probably more like 8 or 9, that the NCAA has yet to link Michigan to anything in regards to having knowledge of Connor Stalions' in-person scouting thing, whatever you want. And the only violation in regards to the in-person scouting is going to be level 1 violations levied against Connor Stalions. Failure to cooperate with the NCAA and failure to cooperate with Michigan. So it's 2. And they wanted, from my understanding, they wanted ridiculous asks like emails from the last 15 years, bank statement. This is the NCAA asking for this,
right?
Emails from the last 15 years, bank statements, phone records from the last 15 years.
And then they turn around and say, well, you weren't cooperating.
Right. And then basically told the NCAA to say, shove it. And that's when they're like, well, you're not cooperating. So,
right.
I mean, I kind of don't blame them. However, if you don't have anything to hide, then what's the harm in letting people go 15 years back in your email and look? But, whatever. I digress. The most important part here is that the only thing that the NCAA has found on Michigan are level 2 recruiting violations against a staffer that's no longer with the program. Minor stuff like improper communication during a dead period and hosting a workout and stuff, which kind of similar to the burger stuff, but not really.
The COVID dead period thing is frustrating in the standpoint of it was so confusing for everyone, and multiple, I don't want to say every because it's not fair, but I bet every program had issues with what they were doing during that period. And Michigan didn't self-report anything. Somebody else turned them in, if you will. And then whether he misremembered or could not recall, whatever it was, not being forthcoming when that was brought forward. And then, hey, here's a receipt from the restaurant or whatever. That's what spiraled this whole thing out of control from the Burger Gate standpoint, which is so annoying.
And hey, look, if you don't want to believe us in what we're saying, why hasn't the national media posted anything about direct knowledge between Michigan and Connor Stalions or any damning pieces of information other than Stalions going to be on CMU's sidelines and whatever? because there's no link. They had the only thing that they found is that a former staffer deleted text messages from Connor Stalions, but it's the same. I'm almost positive it's the same staffer that's no longer here. It's kind of involved in the recruiting stuff. So that's like the most damning thing they found. And even then, that didn't link anything. So at this point, I mean, I would be stunned if the NCAA found something, because we've gone this long without finding anything or hearing anything.
And the Big Ten closed its portion of the investigation, specifically saying what would change things would be any new information involving coach involvement, i.e., there isn't any now, right? You wouldn't say, hey, if we find out about coach involvement later, okay, no. And explicitly saying they never found anything connecting Harbaugh to it either. And reminder, Harbaugh wasn't being suspended. Michigan was being punished. That was their loophole on that. So what would change things, to your point, is some sort of connection there. And for the fans and stuff that bring up like the images of Stalions on the sideline and like, oh, he's talking to Minter and he's clearly stealing signs. That was his job. He was a sign stealer. He scouted future opponents. That's not the rule that they broke, potentially, right? And I'll go into what I heard from the couple folks that I talked to who are around NIL and what they've been told in this offseason in terms of expectations was, like you said, they think the NCAA is going to struggle to even prove a violation by Stalions because the bylaw 1161 about in-person scouting is specifically under the category of athletic employees, right? That's why everybody thought Stalions being at the Central game was such a big deal, because that was that line being crossed. Him being at a game, right? The weird gray area of him potentially paying a grad student or something to film with an iPhone or whatever. That's the legal ease of that. Now the NCAA has freedom to interpret their own rules. And we've heard terms like the spirit of the rule and a conspiracy to violate it, right? The issue with Stalions is the narrative and the optics of it, how egregious it looks, right? The thing I can't stand about it was stupid and I think pointless, right? When we shared the 7-page document that we had of Ohio State with their stolen signs of Don Brown, everybody's like, hey, they had somebody in the stadium too. Look at those are pictures from inside the stadium. I go, no, that's from the All-22 film.
Yep.
And TV broadcast, because you can literally, Maurice Clarett, to his credit, Ohio State running back, has literally said as much. If you're good at scouting, you didn't need what he was doing. And that's the part that's most annoying, is I don't think there was any value from it. But
and here's the thing too. The NCAA has totally screwed themselves, because you've got the president of the almost said president of the United States, president of the NCAA saying that Michigan won a national championship fair and square. Yeah. So if you're trying to, I don't even know, like a bowl ban, or even there's been no talk of vacated wins, by the way, but hypothetically,
it'd be a first without ineligible players,
right? A vacated wins, you've got your own president going totally against publicly what you're trying to punish Michigan for. So you've screwed yourself, because there's no way that's going to hold up in court.
Well, and previous instances, again, I know Stalions potentially with the planning and coordination makes it more egregious, and that's why they're trying to find ways to level this up. But previous instances of this bylaw being broken, including an assistant coach literally standing on an opposing sideline during a game, was a small fine, and he was suspended for a half.
Yep.
In a level 3 infraction, right? Yep. So to up this, you're going to have to, I mean, I guess they can do whatever they want. That's the point. They can say whatever they want in terms of the allegations, because that's what the NCAA has. But what was expected, at least early on, and again, if something else has come out, I haven't seen the notice. I don't know what I don't know. I'm not pretending, but the framing's been, look, Connor's going to get a show cause, and probably a massive one. Michigan's going to get a big fine, right? That's it. When I hear vacating wins, I'm with you. I think that's a weird, when you think about the other places where wins have been vacated, and the NCAA has actually even reversed themselves later, like the Penn State situation.
Right.
They seem hesitant to do that. And the postseason ban thing is interesting to me on multiple levels. One, they've been very hesitant to do that because you're punishing players that weren't involved.
Yep.
Right. They've said that's a thing too, is like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to us to punish. I mean, especially in a situation, the coaches are gone, the players are gone. Who are you punishing with a postseason ban? Right. That's kind of been their mindset. So it'd be weird in the Michigan situation. And then also they don't sanction the college football playoff. That's not the NCAA. It's its own entity.
Right.
Now, would the college football playoff honor a postseason ban from the NCAA? Probably, I'd imagine.
Maybe. I mean, it depends. I mean,
yeah,
you got Ward Manuel like on.
That's so true.
So
yeah.
I don't know.
But there's a theoretical situation where a postseason ban would mean if Michigan doesn't make the playoff, they don't get to go to the Pop-Tart Bowl. And I just, and I don't even think we're there yet. A notice of allegation. I mean, we're so far from resolution here. I mean, we're talking next summer, man. Like, this is just,
To be clear, there are 0 suggested punishments in a notice of allegations. They're exactly what the title suggests. They are notice of allegations. Yeah. So Michigan has like a 90-day window to Steve with the Circuit City.
Oh, I wish I would have thought of that joke.
So Michigan has 90 days to respond to that. And I think there's another window once they respond to that the NCAA responds to that. So look, we've been told for the last month that we were expecting a NOA to come through any moment. It could very well come this week. I was told in mid-June that it was gonna come. So we're still waiting.
I couldn't find it, Steve. I'm sorry. The black polo I thought was it, isn't it? So I've got one. Sorry, I let you down. Circuit City shirt coming soon.
So it's I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts, and I've yet to see anything that's necessarily damning for Michigan.
And if it's there, okay. I mean, that's been my position all along is, look, I'm going to adjust and react to facts as they're presented to me.
Yep.
I'm not claiming I know things I don't know, right? So, like, I think what was so frustrating for Michigan fans was the narrative was set before they even ever had a chance with Pete Thamel's reports, which were coming directly from Ohio State, right? But, like, what were we told at the very beginning of this scandal? That he was a former military mastermind.
Yeah.
With a web of spies, right? Like, this is how it was being framed, was he was like this genius tactician, and he had this web of people that were doing advanced scouting and blah, 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 right? And then every single thing that came out kind of kneecapped that a little bit, right? Yeah, he was in the military, but he wasn't some, Navy SEAL 6, like, he wasn't some brilliant tactician, right? He was a passionate super fan with a 600-page manifesto or whatever, right? And it just kept getting weirder. The web of spies. The one guy that they got to say anything was that D3 coach that was like, it was raining, so I went home, right? Other than that,
yeah.
2 other people came forward and said that Stalions sent them tickets. They were fans who hadn't been to Michigan games, thanked him for the tickets, said they had nothing to do with recording it, right? So, like, okay. And then, I mean, it just keeps getting weirder. The guy's got a porch full of used vacuums.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like, And then you called it a sign stealing scandal. It was never a sign stealing scandal.
Right.
I mean, I know that's what he was trying to do. I get it. But calling that has completely changed people's perspective of what they did wrong or what cheating looked like. Or whatever. And then you got Michigan State pretending they're not going to play Michigan.
Right.
Because of player safety. Well, they might know our plays. They already did. Everybody sign steals. Why are we acting like that's not the case, right?
He didn't even score.
Yeah. And then, oh my God, he started an LLC with Blake's name on it without even telling Blake. And it just so many weird things. So yeah,
I have a story behind that, allegedly why that happened. He was showing Blake Corum how to start an LLC, and he did it in a different state. I think it was like Wyoming.
I remember hearing about this.
Yeah. So he was teaching Blake how to start an LLC, and he filled out paperwork to show how easy it was to start an LLC, and he included his name on it. I think it was, I forget what the name of it was, but yeah. Anyway, I am willing to eat all the crow in the world if this turns into something that all of these other people are saying it's going to happen. Like,
well, I don't even think
the whatever I mean, we went from the hammer coming to the FBI investigating
the
gambling.
signs. Sorry, your average fan. Yes, they shared. That's why we know they're sign stealers. Like the stuff Connor was trying to leak out about other teams. Like they talk to each other. Ohio State shared Michigan signs with Purdue before the Big Ten championship. It happens. Everybody does that. Yeah.
I know I left your average fan's comment on the screen for a while because I wanted to get to it.
Yeah, my bad.
This documentary on Netflix is going to be nothing more than a butt fluff piece propping up a big nothing. How he did this, how other teams share signs with each other. It's going to be nothing but a major fluff piece. There's nothing.
It's the same series that did Swamp Kings. The people that do these documentaries aren't doing it to be framed in a negative light.
It's by LeBron and Maverick Carter. They're the executive producers.
And I don't know. I was going to let that go.
Something that's just completely fluff, all positive. No, I'm not talking about butts. I'm just it's fluff. It's just a fluff. It's a puff piece. There's going to be nothing damning in there because it just won't be.
You think Connor Stalions' lawyer would have let him do that?
No,
right. Yeah.
No.
So I don't think anything substantial will come out of it.
CMU coach getting let go.
I don't know if you just joined in. We did talk about that. I look that we do think that's probably the guy that was involved with Stalions getting on the sideline, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
So
it 100% is. I'm kind of surprised that McElwain's not receiving more.
It is weird. Like it literally was like, we're going to look into this and get to the bottom of it. And it felt like they got to the bottom of it and we're like, crap, this is actually worse for us than Michigan. Never mind.
Yeah.
Because it was.
It is.
They brought him there not to let him do something that would help Michigan. They brought him to the CMU Michigan State game because they thought he could help them beat Michigan State.
Right. Those two were best friends in Michigan. So, I mean, that's a CMU problem. That's not a Michigan problem.
Well, he's wearing CMU sideline gear except for his Jordans, which is hilarious.
Right.
Because they're Adidas and he had the Jordan shoes on. Right. He's wearing CMU gear.
Steve, that's fine.
That's well done.
That's your best one yet, Steve. That's your best.
And you have a lot of good ones, but that's a good one. And I understand why Michigan State's frustrated. I get it. Again, it's just annoying and stupid to see that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They have every reason to gripe about that case, Michigan's case, whatever.
I want to know because he wasn't on the list, and you and I know, and I've said this. I've given some pushback to Michigan State people too. To get into a stadium is not easy. Right. So we have to apply, and I know press is different because the team's coming in and the team provides a long list and whatever, right? It's not the same thing as individuals, but you apply to the school ahead of time. They look into, you're approved, right? And then for us to get there, we have to provide identification of who we are to get a pass, right? So for CMU to, whether they used a fake name to get him in, or I don't know. And then nobody was like, who is this guy? Right? Nobody. And he's there's, even if it was one guy that got him in, multiple people had to be like, who's that dude? Right. So I don't know. But yeah, like I said, I think that's going to be, I know that'll be worse for CMU. Now, like you said, if you start showing me that coaches knew he was doing this or was some level of coordination of it, that's a different animal. That's clear violation of that bylaw now, right? The idea that, they had to know because he was stealing signs, again, nope, they didn't. There's visual proof of what other schools were doing, stealing signs from all 22 and from the TV broadcasts. And again, this rule was not established for competitive reasons. It was established as a financial thing in 1994 because some lower programs couldn't afford to send people to go scout their opponents. They used to do it, right? And they almost threw it out in 2021, and they should have, but the NCAA is stupid, saying it was little to no competitive advantage, and it's incredibly outdated because every game is broadcast on TV now, right? So it's stupid. But yeah, so look, if something different than what we know comes, then yeah, I'm going to change my tune. But I think the framing and the narrative is so much worse than what happened. And again, I know it's egregious, it's stupid. We're frustrated for a different reason. Rival fans are frustrated because it's egregious and like, how could you do it? And I'm sitting here going, it did nothing. Yeah. You almost jeopardized Michigan's national championship for that, so, but yeah, we'll see when the NOA comes. And it feels like it probably could be soon because what else is there to learn? And then, the CMU thing, that's interesting. We'll see how that trickles down and then we'll go from there. But again, we're nowhere close to this thing being resolved. So we'll see. That ended up being a much longer rant than I anticipated. So sorry.
Yeah, the timing is weird. It's weird timing. They're making wholesale changes on their offense like a day or two before camp starts.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like the whole thing from the start is just dumb. CMU is dumb. They acted like, oh, we had no idea, even though it's like very plainly Connor Stalions on the sideline. It would take a moron not to know.
It's comical.
Yeah. So, and now 2 days before camp, they're like, oh, well, by the way, we're going to restructure the offense a little bit here. I think if I can get this stupid ad blocker on these things, they're telling me to pause the ad blocker. I'm trying to read Football Scoop's report here on the fly.
I saw it. They're just talking about that he was let go, who got elevated, and the fact that he used to work at Michigan, and then that they have, to their credit, they got the Central Michigan roster of the credentialed people back last year, and he wasn't on it. Which it feels like I said, feels like CMU got to a point where they were like, we're not going to tell you anything and you can't find anything. And then maybe they found something to prove it was him.
Well, and here's the thing. And here's the thing too. I got sent a picture of a drive from Central Michigan and that showed everything. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh, because he shared it with him. Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? Like, it's so... Yeah. The fact that they had to use that on Michigan frickin' State, like, why? You weren't going to beat Michigan State. I don't care if you knew what every single play that they were ever going to run in the history of time. You're not going to beat Michigan State. So the whole situation is dumb, A, because you're not going to win, because you're in East Lansing, you're still not going to win.
Your average fan.
The whole, and
the timing's been horrific the entire time. They're in the air when Harbaugh gets suspended by the Big Ten. Right. The Big Ten media days, they came out with the press release.
Yeah, exactly. And
every program and every fan base feels like they're a victim and somebody's out to get them while stuff's happening to them.
Right.
But this whole thing has there's been a lot of moments where it's like, man, this feels deliberate. Like you're trying to make it as,
Well, the leaks to begin with, because when's the last time we've heard a leak of anything of this, of deeper circumstance when it comes to this investigation?
And that's why I said that. I was kind of being a smart aleck, but I made some comment about like, if there was more, I feel like Pete Thamel would have told us already.
You're not wrong, though. You're not wrong.
Yeah. So, and even, Detroit News, Angelique, credit to them, I don't know how they stay committed to fighting on some of those Freedom of Information Act things. They're still trying to get Matt Weiss information.
Yeah, good luck. That's never going to happen.
They just got the NOA from Burgergate, which came last year.
Yeah.
I mean, but props to them for getting a hold of that stuff, but there wasn't anything in there we didn't know already. You know what I mean? So yeah, we'll see. Obviously there'll be a lot of happy rival fan bases if this ends up being worse than what we've seen or heard. And I also think nobody's ever going to care. You're dug into your side. I always bring up Deflate.
Oh yeah.
The Jets fans and everybody who hated Brady being so pissed, as if you knew there was a rule of how inflated or deflated the ball had to be before that even came out. Right. And then they came out and won a Super Bowl anyway. So if you're still complaining about it, that's kind of how I feel about Michigan. If they wouldn't have won those games, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
But hey, no Harbaugh, everything going on, you still win a natty. So it is what it is. But yeah, we'll be keeping tabs on it for sure. Obviously, any updates you can find over at michigan.rivals.com inside the den. Obviously, fall camp getting started. We're going to have fall camp intel. I've been slowly churning out my camp kickoff stuff, position breakdowns and previews. I mean, we're in the thick of it now. There's going to be tons and tons and tons of content coming out. Recruiting stuff is still, obviously this is going to be the period slows down for a little bit, but got a couple potential commitments this month, I think. And, some other things going on. So if you're not a subscriber already, please make sure head over to michigan.rivals.com/sign up. If you want to get a lottery ticket and try and get a free subscription, make sure you're following Mr. Josh Henschke here on Twitter. He runs a subscription Sunday promo. You retweet the graphic. A winner gets picked. You get a free 1-year subscription to Maize and Blue Review to give us a shot. And then also is the student promo launch too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. If we have any college students, there's a graphic up on the Michigan Rivals Twitter as well. But you can just send an email from your .edu email to prove you have your college email. And it's $11.95 for the entire first year. So got a couple good promos going on if you want to give us a shot. Obviously, we are full of subscribers and loyal viewers here in the comments live. I always tell you folks, if you have any questions about our community or if you should join, please ask our subscribers. Derek, one of our most loyal, awesome dude, but they are our community. They do it, not us. We're proud of it, but they're the guys to ask if you think it's worth joining. So please do. This has been a fun one. We've had some Buckeye fans jumping in. Being reasonable, some good conversation like that. Yeah. And no problem with that.
Thing.
Always.
No, absolutely.
Man, we're here. I can't believe it. Can't believe it's fall camp. It went so fast.
Yeah.
We didn't get a break. That's why.
Right.
There was no break this year. None. God, even when we thought we were going to get one, coaches are getting fired. After they got hired. And then basketball too. Man, basketball is going to be fun. What a time. All right. This was a long one. A lot of you spoke with us or stuck with us. We appreciate it. Like, subscribe, again, notification bell. We typically go live on Sundays at 7. We knew we were going to get some time with Kirk and Wink today, so we pushed back. But I would imagine Sunday moving forward, it's going to be our regular show. And Brock Heilig will be back. Little Brock will be back. He does not like being a part of our recruiting coverage. So
to be fair, we had a scheduling conflict for today.
Yeah. That was a last minute thing, but our regular Sunday trio, I'm hoping we can get him into a regular room, but
not in the closet.
That boy's committed.
Yeah.
I
mean, we would like to go back to, we'd like to go to, I think we have enough to go weekly again.
Oh, we're weekly.
I think there's definitely weekly.
Well, honestly, I'd like this show to be weekly all the time.
Right.
I think I've told everyone, and if you don't know, obviously I had some health stuff that really impacted us this spring and summer, and I haven't been able to provide the kind of coverage and content that I would like. But I think our goal would be to always have this show be weekly, just because I enjoy it. The folks that come in here and interact with us and the questions and so much of what we do comes from our subscribers, right? Like, people ask questions in the den, or like we have conversations like, let me look into that. Let me dig into the data. Let me find out for you. I know it can be cheesy at times, but that's why we say, like, we work with you guys, not, we're not talking at you. we want to be the people you send out to figure out what you're looking for. But like, I mean, I've written probably 4 articles just from things Derek or Steve or somebody said, where I'm like, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I want to do the show as much as possible. This is built into something fun. So yeah, that would be the goal. But anyway, I think I beat the same drum. Like, subscribe, notification go, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, tomorrow, fall camp, Michigan football, team 145, defending national champions. We're here. Yeah. All right. We'll see you next time. Hail to the podcast.